Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a reader. I try to spend a few hours every day reading, and I read the local paper from time to time. I live in Milton, Ontario. It's a small town, and we have a local paper called the Milton Champion. And my favorite part of the Milton Champion is letters to the editor, because they're always inspiring and fill me with a warmth and a hope for the future, and I thought I would share one with you today. Dear Editor, in last Tuesday's Champion, I read a letter from a shocked and concerned citizen whose children had experienced racially oriented incidences in our community. As a resident of Milton my whole life, nearly 20 years, I'm almost equally as shocked. The key word being almost. I witnessed this town of ours from being a stable 30,000 people when I was in grade 5 or 6 to double the population in 2 years, and now nearly triple the size of it was when I was a kid. I agree with the writer of this letter that many people move to this community because it has small town feel to it. Yeah, because it's a small town, you fucking moron. And that the residents believe we don't have the problems of city life. Unfortunately, with a major population increase comes an increase in crime and hatred. Yeah, because people who live in rural communities, the most loving people in the world, come on, it's a myth. This myth that if you're poor and live in the country that you're incredibly compassionate. Shut the fuck up. The letter continues. I remember a time when Milton was predominantly a white community. In high school, this changed, and I enjoyed the new multiculturalism Milton was experiencing. Yes, like a Benetton ad. I loved that we branched out into... One of my best friends is half Filipino, and although she has never lived in Milton, and I rarely get to see her, what kind of a best friend is this? We're pen pals. She's in jail. No, that's that guilt, that stupid, spoiled, suburban guilt. One of my best friends isn't like me, and even though she doesn't live where I do and I rarely get to see her, I've learned so much about her culture and the different cultures of her neighbors and friends, including Middle Eastern and Chinese. Oh, she's collecting them all. Oh, that's great. I know things that aren't like me. Yes, it's very unfortunate that not everyone can see the benefit. My cat wants to chime in. What's that, kitty? Yes, as Winifred Burkle, my cat, she's also very concerned. Yes, here we go. Meow. It's very unfortunate. This is the letter again. I'm reading again. Quote, it's very unfortunate that not everyone can see the benefits of multiculturalism. Not like me, I'm so enlightened. With media coverage being focused mainly on the problems of Afghanistan and Iraq since 9/11, many good people have turned a little xenophobic. This leads to suspicions and gossiping among adults. And transfers into children ostracizing other children due to race and or religion. Yeah, that leads to kids ostracizing children. The media's attention of the war in Iraq. Yeah, because before that, kids were getting along so well. I grew up in the 80s, and I can tell you kids back then were still being ostracized and picked on, not because of the war in Iraq, but because they were fat, or thin, or they were girls and they had no boobs, or they were girls and they had boobs. They wore glasses. They had acne. Kids are going to pick on other kids. Blame the war. I'm going back to the letter now. Another problem the writer mentioned was the N-word some children use towards their kids. That was obviously inappropriate. Oh, good. Yes, children dropping the N-bomb. Yes, definitely inappropriate. Yeah, yes, you agree, Winifred? You're not going to drop the N-bomb, are you? That was obviously inappropriate, but I think I've heard more rap artists use the N-word than children. Wow. Just the fact that they wrote that sentence down to me is amazing. You know, I've heard the N-word used a lot, but I think rap artists use it more. It still doesn't excuse it. Kids shouldn't use it, ever. And rap artists, well, they're rap artists. If you're emotionally invested in something Ludacris says, then you're holding us back as a species. Maybe I've been out of elementary school for too long and just don't hear it, but I live in a neighborhood where there are children constantly running around playing in driveways and sometimes on the street. I think the problem isn't so much with parents being racist and teaching their kids racist ideas. I think it has more to do with the media, especially music, and the settings children are in outside of their homes. So the racism isn't the parents' fault. You know, it's because Jay-Z dropped the N-bomb. That makes your kid a terrible person. The letter continues. I remember in high school some acquaintances of color would call each other the N-word, as if it wasn't a derogatory term, but one of endearment. That also seems to be the case in some rap songs, with the use of the N-word as if it's okay. Say you have a child who doesn't necessarily know what a few words mean. Okay, I'm gonna state here. Most kids don't know what most words mean. So that sentence in and of itself is irrelevant. Say you have a child who doesn't necessarily know what a few words mean. I will go one step further and say full-grown adults don't know most words. Especially in a culture that made, who's smarter than a fifth grader a success. I think that was the telltale sign. Okay, so say you have a child who doesn't know what a few words mean. He or she learns some profanities and derogatory terms, and then teaches them to a few friends, and all of a sudden you have children who thinks knowing. This is a quote. I couldn't have made this up if I wanted to. He or she learns some profanities and derogatory terms, then teaches them to some friends, and all of a sudden you have children who thinks knowing that sort of language is cool because an older sibling used it and they heard it in a song or whatever. That's the quote. Yeah, say they see something horrible and then somebody else says it or whatever. Awesome. Then these children go and shout their newly learned profanities at certain people. Just run out in the street, hey, you! But they may not actually understand the inappropriateness, depending on their age. Yeah, again, I don't think that's an age thing. Some people just don't know what appropriate is. And the letter continues. I may be an optimist, but I try to believe that Milton really isn't all that bad when it comes to accepting different cultures. But I know there will be those few people who do judge whole cultures on a few crazy individuals. That I'm not ignorant of. Oh, but you are so ignorant of so much more. My best advice, again, this is the letter. I couldn't have made this up if I wanted to. My best advice to anyone who feels ostracized and alone, whether or not it's because of race or religion, is to hold your head high, which was a Triumph song. That hold your head up high. Yeah. Hold your head high and be the best person you can be. Be all that you can be in the army, where they kill people in the Middle East. If you have children, expose them to the wonders of the world. Teach them tolerance and let them know that they're special, no matter what others think or say. If everybody's special, then nobody is special. Okay? The whole point of the term special is that it stands out, that it is exceptional. If we're all special, nobody's special. Okay? The letter goes on. For many years of jiu-jitsu, much thanks to senseis Barb and Darlene Trent, I've learned that the best defense against hatred is love. The best defense against hatred is love. You dope. Both hatred and love are emotional investments. The only defense against them is apathy. You gotta want to hate something. You gotta want to love something. The only defense against either is apathy. The letter concludes with, if you teach your children to be tolerant of others and to ignore any hatred, they will in turn spread this to others, and the effect is exponential. Signed, some twat. Pretty hard to come down on stereotypes and prejudices when you're telling people how to live, asshole.